Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to another cube draft on Magic Arena here. This is going to be my third of the day, fourth just arena cube draft of the June cube overall. And let's just get into this thing. Pretty hard to pass up on Field of the Dead, definitely one of the strongest cards in the cube. The many multicolored decks are quite powerful with the amount of powerful non-basic lands there are, like duals and triomes, Sacred Foundry and Savaya Triumph being examples of that there. So Field of the Dead is great. There's also several ways to search it up. Golos, Ulvenwald Hydra, stuff like that. I have done a Field of the Deck just recently today, but Field of the Dead is still just such a strong card. I'm still going to pick it up whenever I see it pretty much every time, even if I have done the strategy recently. So as much as I do love trying to get a variety of different strategies out here, I'm going to first pick this Field of the Dead, but maybe somebody else like first picked a Golos or Ulvenwald Hydra, any stuff like that, and the lands-based strategy won't be particularly open. I suppose we'll see. And either way, we might be able to end up in a more different, more multicolored kind of Field of the Dead deck than last time. Of course, last time was a pretty basic green-red ramp sort of deck. There are definitely other ways you can go with Field of the Dead being a more controlling, maybe blue-based deck, or being more 5-color with it. Than just like straight up green-red. So what do we have out of this pack? Not anything that's like a direct combo with Field of the Dead, although there are definitely some things that are like kind of cool with it, like Crippling Fear, -3/-3 to all non-zombies. If you draw this really late in the game, you keep all those 2/2s around and try to shred away everything else. Rashmi would go great into just a green-blue ramp deck. And obviously, ramp decks with green at their focus are powerful with Field of the Dead. Multiple non-basics here, a Pathway, a Courtyard, and a Terramorphic Expanse are all good. And a Realmcloak Giant would be really good in the kind of more controlling, slower Field of the Dead decks, or just controlling slower decks in general. So, lots of different cards to take here. I think I'm going to roll with a Realmcloaked Giant here. I think it's just a really strong card, being both a Wrath effect and a game-ending large vigilant creature all in one. So it's a good card in general, and it is the kind of card that can end up in the same deck as a Field of the Dead. So what do we have now? If we had taken that Rashmi, we could just take Kiora here and just be immediately on the green-blue ramp train. But without that, is there anything in white that goes particularly well with Realmcloak Giant? Not really. I mean, Hallowblade and Adonto Vanguard are both good aggressive creatures that can give themselves indestructibility. So the fact that they're aggressive creatures doesn't combo well with Realmcloak Giant because this is much more of a defensive creature for slower decks. But the fact that you can give them indestructible is interesting because you can give them indestructible and then kill everything. So the indestructible creatures won't die. So that's kind of interesting. Nimble Obstructionist is sort of a counterspell, but doesn't counter most things. Definitely an option for like blue-white control here, something like that. There's a Rakdos aggro card, but we'd have to kind of drop everything we're doing if we head into Rakdos aggro. And I'll try out a Seasoned Hollowblade here, just sticking to white for now. And this pack is going to change that right around. We do see a Spider spawning. I do want to draft Spider spawning sometime, but I don't think it works very well with anything that we have so far. And you do have to draft a very specific kind of self-mill deck to go with it. That being said, is this a cool enough card to just drop all of my white cards and move into just like green-black lands and self-mill with this Field of the Dead? I feel like it probably is. If we're taking a card that goes with just our white, somewhat controlling mid-range stuff going on here, we just take like Palladium Mirror. And we obviously can't play Field of the Dead in just like a mono white deck, so we'd have to find a second color to play with that stuff. This is a pretty decent pack here. Spider Spawning is a really fun card that's super fun to build around, and I'm going to try taking that here. But there's also like Experimental Frenzy, which is just a grand slam, really good card in very aggressive decks, particularly in like mono red. Sphinx of Foresight's always good, and Finale of Devastation great in the ramp decks. I'm going to take the Spider Spawning here and hope that the self-mill cards are as open as they have been recently in the drafts. Definitely have seen all of the black creatures that come into play and mill you a couple cards just flying around the draft pods. Very rarely do they get taken highly. So what do we have now? If we're going for a Spider Spawning deck, there's nothing that works particularly well with that, although Elvish Reclaimer works well in a Field of the Dead deck, being able to search for your Field of the Dead for 2 mana. Just sacrifice one land and turn it into a Field of the Dead. Skittering Surveyor's fine, because it goes into any deck and mana fixes you. Temple of Abandoned would be fine, giving us a non-basic to go with Field of the Dead, as would Kazandu Mammoth. Good creature to play on turn 3 or a land when you need the land, as well as being a land with a different name for field. Pretty good options all around here. I think I'll take the Elvish Reclaimer, because it combos with Field of the Dead in that it can search for Field of the Dead out of your library, but it also combos with Spider Spawning a little bit because it combos well with self-mill cards. If you fuel your grave, just fill it with enough stuff, the Reclaimer does become a 3/4 pretty quickly. So that's a thing. There's a Feed the Swarm here in black as just a good removal spell. Tangled Florahedron, a bit of a little ramp creature. Lifecrafter's Bestiary for a bit of a green draw spell, and Primal Command for the versatile spell there. I think I'll go with a Tangled Florahedron here. A lot of Field of the Dead decks can be pretty rampy, trying to hit high mana costs, not only just by spitting a bunch of lands out, but also trying to cast big 7-mana cards and stuff. So Florahedron could work well with Field of the Dead, but it will definitely work well with Spider Spawning, because we want a high creature count for that. So having cards that we could play as a land and also just happen to be a creature when they're in our grave are probably pretty good there. Now we have Vraska Golgari Queen, probably the strongest card in green-black here, but we do see several things pretty open in green and black here, which is a great sign. We see Inscription of Abundance, Spring to Mind, Dread Wanderer, Sign in Blood, and God Eternal Bontu. Again, Vraska probably the strongest out of all of these cards, being able to destroy something problematic for the 4 mana, or it can just sit there and draw you multiple cards throughout the game, and eventually has a pretty good ultimate. So Vraska is a very good card, but the fact that we're seeing a lot of green and black here is definitely a good sign for us with our Spider Spawning. Could certainly hope for the best there. Now we have a Find and Finality, which is a good Wrath effect because it can clear off the board while keeping something on your own board by putting some counters on it to make it big enough to survive. So I do like that. It also can return 2 creatures from your grave to your hand off of the Find half of this card, which that's definitely good with a lot of self-mill. Yeah, I mean, we could take one of these creatures, which, again, they would combo with Spider Spawning by just being another creature card, making it more likely that Spider Spawning actually makes a bunch of stuff, but they don't do anything particularly fantastic with that sort of strategy. And now I think I'll just take a Foulmire Knight, just draw a card and make a little Death Toucher. Both fine for the graveyard sort of decks, and now we can take a Gem Razor, always a fun time. Main deckable artifact and enchantment hate is great, and it's also just a 4-mana 4/4 reach trample at worst, and at best you can mutate it out for even cheaper. Midnight Reaper is going to be awesome in this deck. We're expected to have a lot of creatures. If we're trying to throw a bunch of creatures into our graveyard, and having a lot of creatures means this is going to trigger quite often, drawing you a bunch of cards. And we do have a little bit of sacrifice effects now already as well with Vraska, so some good ways to use Midnight Reaper. And now we can take Finale of Devastation, search your library and or graveyard for a creature, spit it into play. We already have a little bit of ramp, could get a little more, and this grabs whatever we need out of the deck at the time. And I like Kazandu Mammoth, again, a land that is a creature on the front to go with Spider Spawning in a way. It's also just a good card, and I don't expect us to have enough elves to really use Tyvar. Tyvar actually just one of the weakest cards in the cube just because it's pretty hard to draft an elf deck, I have found. We do get last pick Dread Wanderer, which actually is great for us because this does have a relevant ability in the graveyard. So really nice to see that, and that actually makes me pretty excited to see what else we might be able to get late in the draft here. We might be able to get all of the self-mill sort of cards if we see Dread Wanderer last pick. So, there is a Vorinclex Monstrous Raider here. 6 mana for a 6/6 trample haste, doubles all your counters on stuff and halves your opponent's counters, so really good if you can drop this out and then play Vraska or something, but I don't think we're likely to have a ton of Planeswalkers or +1/+1 counters, so basically just a 6/6 trample haste. Super fine for the cost, but I do like having a lot of removal and interactive cards in the cube because of how explosive the plays can be, so I like cards like Poison the Cup a lot. I think it's between Poison the Cup and Vorinclex. Nightpack Amateur is also a pretty powerful card, but it's a card that incentivizes you to have a lot of stuff to do at instant speed, because if you're not casting cards during your turn, you're creating tokens, and we're likely to be a pretty creature-heavy deck here, so we're not going to have a lot to do at instant speed, just going to be running out creatures during our turn most of the time, so I don't love Nightpack Amateur there. I think I'm just going to take the Poison the Cup there. Vorinclex is pretty cool, but I do want to make sure that I have my my removal all together. Now, what do we have? I guess you can actually reanimate an Ulamog if you mill it, so that's an option. One of the few Eldrazi that does not shuffle your whole graveyard back into your library when it hits the grave. So you can, if you get any reanimator spells in black, reanimate an Ulamog. So that's actually kind of a choice for that reason. There's also Ram Through, which is sort of removal, although not anywhere near as good as Poison the Cup, because Poison the Cup kills anything, and this only kills something smaller than what you have on board. And that's about it. Cruel Reality is just too much mana for the thing you're ramping into, and in our deck, if we're ramping into a big thing, probably wanting to ramp into a big creature. So we'll take the Ulamog. Maybe we can get some reanimator spells alongside the self-mill that we're hoping to get. A lot of how well this deck operates is going to hinge on if we get the self-mill right now. If we don't, we still have plenty just decent cards to make like a green-black mid-range deck, but it's not going to be anything exciting without those kind of combos. Blood Artist would be okay here, as would Knight of the Ebon Legion. I think either of these would be fine. I think I'll go with the Blood Artist. Seems really fun if we can Spider Spawning alongside it, although that's not particularly likely. And I'll take the Swarm Shambler here. Phyrexian Obliterator is just too hard to cast. I guess Vraska's Contempt's a pretty good option too. That's a pretty fantastic removal spell. How many creatures do we have right now? We definitely want a lot if we're doing spider spawning stuff. We have 9 already. We're doing pretty well on creatures. I think I'll take Vraska's Contempt. Now we have Llanowar Elves, Scute Swarm, Callous Blood Mage, Thrashing Brontodon, Golos even. We do have that Field of the Dead that we didn't end up really going for here. I don't think we're a Field of the Dead deck at this point for sure. This is a hard pack. I don't think... Yeah, we don't have any like land ramp right now, and we probably won't end up with a lot, so Scute Swarm isn't great here, but it does give us 1/1s to sacrifice to stuff like Vraska, which is kind of cool. Works with Blood Artist well in that sense. But I also just like the main deckable removal of Brontodon, and Llanowar Elves is just great ramping you up really early. I like all this stuff. I think they're all pretty good. I'll take a Llanowar Elves here. See if we can't curve into like turn 2 Gem Razor and stuff like that. Turn 2 Kazandu Mammoth would be pretty big too. Just make our curve have the potential to be really aggressive out of just the green-black like Golgari mid-range half of the deck. I like the Dryad. Get to play extra lands off this card, and it mana fixes you perfectly, but Paradise Druid is good as well. In 2 colors, we don't really need all of the mana fixing from Dryads. We could just do the Paradise Druid, get ramping up a little earlier. I think I'll roll with that here. Grizzly Salvage, there we go. There's our first self-mill card. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put a creature or land from among them into your hand, put the rest into the graveyard, so it mills you 5 cards. Definitely helps a lot with the spider spawning. I'm going to take every self-mill card I see, and I'm going to take them very highly, because I want to do the spider spawning thing here. So we're going to take that over some other viable cards. Reclamation Sage, Fatal Push, Emergent Sequence. Lots of solid stuff here. But Grizzly Salvage is exactly what the doctor ordered for this deck. Now we have a Doomblade, a Scavenging Ooze, an Elvish Rejuvenator, a Llanowar Visionary. So much great stuff here. A Massacre Worm as well. Well, that is a little bit expensive, I think, for this deck. I don't like exiling our own stuff with Scavenging Ooze, so I don't love it a ton here. But I mean, it's still really good, and Massacre Worm's kind of expensive for us. Massacre Worm's awesome, though. Massacre Worm was like one of the best cards in our last deck. So, try out the Massacre Worm again, and now we'll pick up an Ambusher. Not a Wilderness Reclamation deck, so we'll take a Ram through. Wheeling all the green and black stuff, so that's a good sign. I guess we could take Godpharaoh's Gift here. If we get enough self-mill, this could just spit out a bunch of zombies over time. It's kind of a thing. Suppose so. We're not going to play Phyrexian Obliterator. It's too hard of a mana cost, but we'll put it in for now. And we do wheel Thrashing Bronchdon and Callous Blood Mage. All right, looks like our colors are wide open. So if there's any more self-mill in this cube, we're probably going to see in that last pack, which should be a great time. I like Command the Dreadhorde again with a bunch of self-mill. Maybe we just get a million things on the board really quickly, and that could be pretty cool. We even get the last pick emergent sequence. I don't think we're playing that, though. Well, as open as our colors are, this is not a good pack to open up. Thoughtseize or Agadeem's Awakening is basically it. I guess Agadeem's Awakening can return several cards from the grave. Maybe try that out here. Thoughtseize is just great disruption, though. I think Agadeem's Awakening is a little more likely to wheel than Thoughtseize, so we'll take Thoughtseize and maybe wheel the Awakening. But I don't think we're playing anything else out of that pack. Maybe a Primal Might, but it's not incredibly likely. So Valky, but we're not going to be playing Tybalt ever. Eliminate for more cheap removal, or just like a Thragtusk. I'm just going to take the decent creature here of the Thragtusk. We do want to keep our creature count pretty high to go with Spider Spawning, as I said before, because it cares about how many creatures are in your grave. Alright, well, as cool as Polukranos is, I'm very unlikely to pass up on Gonti almost ever. Such a big impact in every game that you play it. Grab the best card out of the top 4 of your opponent's library, and you get a Death Toucher out that blocks very well. And Polukranos might even wheel, since it is green and black. The only people who could take it would have to be both of those colors. And a little bit graveyard synergistic as well, to really want the Polukranos. Get rid of that Obliterator here. Probably Nightpack Ambusher as well. Command the Dreadhorde. Probably not doing Ulamog. Godpharaoh's, Gift. This is 23 cards, so this would be like the deck right now. $14 creatures in here. Pretty good count for Spider Spawning. Definitely want some more. At least like 3 more. As we progress. Alright, Skyclave Shade seems pretty great here. We can play it from our graveyard. It's a good aggressive creature. We can even play it bigger later with that kicker cost. We still only have Grizzly Salvage to mill ourselves. I feel like we're getting cut off of the self-mill cards here, which is really weird. Or we just have not opened them up in the packs. Eldest Reborn, Plain-Wide Celebration, Ayara. Really difficult mana cost on Ayara. Plain-Wide Celebration always just feels like way too much mana for what it does, so I guess I'll try out Eldest Reborn here. But I don't usually find myself loving that card. Yeah, I'm just looking for like the Stitcher Suppliers, Mire Tritons. We just have not seen them. Yeah, I guess they just got scooped up really early and somebody might have just like switched strategies from what they were doing before. Not ideal for sure. Bolas' Citadel is really good if you have the life gain to be able to like keep paying the life cost of casting stuff. I don't think it's that great in our deck. I think we'll just take a green-black dual land here and be pretty happy with that. Get some mana fixing. Now, there's a Reanimator spell for trying to get that Ulamog reanimated, but I don't know if I want to play one big old Ulamog and one card to reanimate it. Definitely want to have a more consistent combo there, so I guess we'll take Woe Strider. It does some graveyard synergies and sacrifices goats to scry and stuff. Demonic Pact is fun if you can get it to work, but I've never got it to work, so not going to take Demonic Pact either. There's Stitcher Supplier. Alright, well that's a slam dunk right here. We found the Stitcher Supplier, just happened to be in the last pack. but did not see the Mire Triton. Or the Timuret Calls the Dead, any of the other, like, self-mill cards. But even just a Stitcher Supplier and a Grizzly Salvage in a deck with a lot of creatures, which we do have 17 here, does make the Spider Spawning playable at least. So we might be able to do something big with Spider Spawning. That's the hopes and dreams here. We'll see how well it pans out. But I don't expect it to be particularly fantastic in this deck. We didn't get the ultimate Spider Spawning deck or anything, just a decent little Golgari mid-range deck. Pretty basic stuff. We do get that Pelucrinus wheel to us, which is great graveyard synergies, perfect for what we're doing here. Just escapes as a absolutely massive threat. I'm tired of seeing Approach to the Second Sun, so I'm just going to hate draft it, because we're not casting any of those cards. Take that, Control players. And probably not playing Plane-Wide Celebration. I guess Soul Guide Lantern's like really good against us, so we can hate draft that in case we play against anybody else in our pod, but it's pretty unlikely with the amount of people playing Arena. It does happen. Doom Necromancer, actually pretty playable for us, even if we don't throw the Ulamog back in here, just as kind of a value reanimator card. Alright, so we have 47 cards in here. There's nothing in the sideboard that I really want in the main deck. Definitely cutting some non-creatures here. I want to keep that creature count nice and high to go with our Spider Spawning. Where'd the Eliminate go? I accidentally put it at 3 mana. Alright, we'll get rid of that. We have more versatile removal like Poison the Cup that kills anything. Eldritch Reborn seems a little slow to me. Even Finale of Devastation seems a little bit slow to me as well. But we do have enough just random effects on our creatures that this is a good tutor in the late game. We can get it like a Gonti when we want one. Brontodon when we need that. Massacre Worm maybe even to wipe their board. I'm going to cut the Eldritch Reborn here. I'm just going to put Agadeem's Awakening in the land pile here. Florahedron's a land, Mammoth's a land, so we could cut 2 more like non-land cards here. I feel like I want to still run 17 lands even alongside these land spells though. Wow, I need to make 5 more cuts still. And I am not seeing anything that I just clearly hate. I guess the Doom Necromancer isn't great. Maybe Grizzly Salvage plus Stitcher Supplier is enough to try to do the Ulamog thing. Like, it'd be really funny if we let it happen one time. But I guess we only have one thing to bring it back. That's the problem. Even if we have multiple things to discard the Ulamog, we just have the one card to bring it back. Agadeem's Awakening could, but if we spend 13 mana. So at that point, we're not really like cheating it into play. Well, this is one of the decks where I like the cards all so much that the last cuts, I don't really have a great opinion or reasoning on them. I kind of have to just cut some stuff that I just instinctually think makes the deck look a little better without, so just gonna make some quick cuts here and see where that leaves us. And the 2 cards I cut there, I think they're both just too slow for their mana cost. That's the main thing I'm thinking about there. Still gotta cut 2 more cards, unfortunately, to hit that 40 card deck. I guess I could play a 42 card deck. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. But ideally, you get your deck whittled down to just the best cards, the most consistent deck that you can. 17 creatures. I don't want to cut any more creatures at this point. Oh, but all of our non-creatures are so powerful. We have so much to do at 1 mana that maybe we cut Thoughtseize because we're always just going to be dropping a creature. That feels wrong because Thoughtseize is such a historically powerful card. But I don't know if we care too much about what our opponent's game plan is. I guess Thoughtseizing away a Wrath effect is pretty important for us. That is definitely a thing. You know, just in the interest of just getting into the gameplay. I might keep that Thoughtseize cut, even though I feel like I should probably put it back in. So we've got 16 black cards and 12 green. Let's cut a forest here because we do have Kazandu Mammoth and Agadeem Awakening, so we do have 2 flip lands. So we can go with the 16 actual lands and 2 flip lands. It seems fine. If I cut 1 card to put Thoughtseize back in, what do I cut? I guess I could cut 1 creature because we do have Grizzly Salvage and Stitcher Supplier self-milling ourselves. So even if our creature count's a little bit lower, we can still trigger spider spawning just by self-milling ourselves, not necessarily by trading a million creatures in the early game. Alright, I'll cut this Elvish Reclaimer then. Make our creature count lower. Elvish Reclaimer doesn't do a lot without important lands to search up, so it was basically just in here at this point to fill our grave a little bit and potentially become just a 1-mana 3/4, but that's not very good. Because most of the time it's a 1-mana 1/2 that doesn't do really anything in this deck. So we'll cut that out so we can throw the Thoughtseize back in. And here's our kind of Golgari mid-range deck. We really wanted to go for spider spawning. Did not find the amount of self-mill that we were hoping for. But we still have a little bit. Grizzly Salvage, Stitcher Supplier to help it out there. And we'll see how things go here. My goal in this draft is simply to make a lot of spiders. So whatever happens here. If we 0-3, if I have 10 spiders out in 1 game, I'll be happy. So we'll see how things happen here. This is definitely a great hand. We can play Llanowar Elves on turn 1, which allows us to play Kazandu Mammoth on turn 2. And I think that's better than Dread Wanderer into Skyclave Shade. But I guess it's arguable. That's 5 power on turn 2, either way. But the Mammoth does even hit for 5 by itself if it doesn't get killed immediately. Alright, they just kill our Llanowar Elf with Elspeth's Nightmare. So I can only play 1 card this turn because of the fact that I only have 1 black mana. If I cast Grizzly Salvage and I get another Swamp, that works out. Let's see what we get off Grizzly Salvage here. So if I get a Swamp, then I can play 2 spells here. No Swamp. Pretty rough. Kind of want the Thragtusk. I have 4 mana in hand. With Castle Garenbrig, I'll have 5. I have 3 mana out this turn, so I'm not casting anything because I don't have any black sources. So I just play Castle Garenbrig this turn. Next turn I can play Skyclave Shade. That's about it. Again, just not having the second black. I'm only playing 1 spell. I think Thragtusk is our best card. I'm just trying to see how well we're curving out in between there. Turns out, not very. Second part of Elspeth's Nightmare does nothing here. But unfortunately for us, not hitting the black source was pretty rough. That means we're only playing 1 spell next turn, and of course having to cast the Grizzly Salvage hoping to find the black source means we have filled our grave here to where all of this is going to get exiled by the Elspeth's Nightmare and give us a little bit of sadness there. A lot less fuel for our spider spawning in the future. I suppose we could play Vraska and destroy their Elspeth's Nightmare, but I don't know if that's worth it. I'd say it probably isn't. because we don't know that we're going to draw spider spawning, but we do have a Stitcher Supplier coming up too, so we have 4 creatures in our grave already, so if we do ever draw a spider spawning, it'll be pretty big if we counter Elspeth's Nightmare from exiling our graveyard. You know what? I'm so all in on spider spawning today for this draft that I'm just going to kill this Elspeth's Nightmare. I want my graveyard, I like my graveyard. I will keep my graveyard, because now I can cast Stitcher Supplier and then use Vraska to sacrifice it and mill 6. Of course, they do just have the Planeswalker removal spell there, so I can't do that. Still don't have the 5th mana for Thragtusk, so no Thragtusk coming out this turn. I can play Skyclave Shade, or I can Thoughtseize them. Eldritch Reborn gets to bring back Vraska. Yeah, that's gonna suck. Not the end of the world, though. I think we probably just play our strongest creatures here. Maybe if you cut every graveyard shenanigan, your deck will be more consistent. That's true, but I am all in for graveyard shenanigans. Discard this Dread Wanderer, we can get it back eventually. And we're stuck on black mana pretty hard here, so it's not like we're going to be casting Dread Wanderer anytime soon when we could Thoughtseize them instead. 5 mana, we could Thragtusk now. Trade with the Savior is advantageous for us, and Skyclave Shade can't block anyway, so we'll send it in. I'm just gonna Thragtusk. If their best play last turn was just to play a 1/1, I don't think I'm about to Thoughtseize anything very good. Unless it's like a 7 mana spell, of course. But I have a feeling it's just like removal to deal with Thragtusk or something like that. Maybe another Wrath effect from them. They did have a Languish earlier. They seem to be a pretty removal-heavy deck. Languish, Nightmare, Reborn. I wouldn't be surprised if their hands like Doomblade, Erebos' Intervention. So Vraska can -3 to kill Skyclave Shade, but that can come back every time we landfall. Okay, yeah, it's just another Wrath effect. And they're going to use Vraska to kill the token. I do hit the second black source, so we can play Stitcher Supplier and Thoughtseize them here. Ooh, I could also Skyclave Shade. Cost another black if I want to kick that. So if I want to kick Skyclave Shade, I don't get to cast Thoughtseize. I don't think I have to kick the Skyclave Shade because it presents lethal on Vraska either way. I guess they're down to 12, so putting a 5-power creature also is pretty good against their life total. Although they're going to have a 7/7 Vigilance blocker out, so I'm not really getting in. Let's just see what they've got here. What do you have left? Fatal Push, Null Priest, pretty much what I was expecting, another removal spell. But Null Priest could be a pretty big reanimator later. Brings back like their 7/7. Yeah, Fatal Push doesn't actually kill anything good right now, so I'll just get rid of the Null Priest. Null Priest. And they can Fatal Push our Skyclave Shade, but again, anytime we hit a landfall, we can just replay it. Realm Cloak Giant is out, sacrificing a land to draw a card. We hit a Midnight Reaper. Alright, Stitcher Supplier, what do you got for us? Nothing. Oh, we can throw Dread Wanderer back into our hand now, but if we do that, we don't cast anything this turn, so we probably just play the Midnight Reaper. The Shade can't block anyway, so I could attack with it just to draw a card here. Seems kind of okay. I do need to draw an out to this Vraska. It's just going to keep shredding my board over and over. And the 7/7 Vigilance, we're not getting through that anyway. Although Vraska's only at like 3, Vraska's going to be at 5, so it might be better just to hold off and wait till we have enough creatures to maybe attack Vraska with all of them and get past the 7/7, because they can only block one of all of them. So we wait and maybe they just block one and we hit for 3 with the other. Although Fatal Push is definitely getting in there. I'm gonna let Stitcher Supplier die. I'm trying to dig for our spider spawning, hopefully. Pelucranos works too. Pelucranos is absolutely massive too. Oh no. I hope they weren't in our draft pod, because then they took our Timuret Calls the Dead. So if we play Pelucranos, we don't get to fight with it the turn we play it. But it doesn't die to Vraska. Vraska only kills stuff with power 3 or less. Pelucranos is still definitely the best play we have. Just get rid of all our non-creatures here. We're down to 12 cards in our library. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 creatures in grave. If I survive long enough here to where I draw spider spawning, I do get my goal of getting 10 spiders out of the way really quick. What? What are you doing with spider spawning? What is this? Spider spawning with 3 creatures in grave. Get out of here. That's my deck. Well, I mean, even with just Pelucranos, just constantly recasting this is pretty good. Three mana to fight off that. 6, 7, 8. Could fight twice if I don't pick up Dread Wanderer. Kind of only need to fight once. I just need to kill Realm Cloak Giant.
Sacrifices.
So they're at 18. They've got the flashback on the spider spawning, of course. They get like 3 creatures again. Angel of Sanctions. Well, I can respond by killing that with Pelucranos so that it doesn't get exiled. But then I have to take all this other damage. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Take a pretty big hit. Foulmire Knight is the draw. A 1/1 Death Toucher is really good on this board. Gaunty. Gaunty's really good here too. Kind of want to hold the 6 mana up so that I can fight Realm Cloak Giant. And a 1/2 and just let my Pelucranos die if they try to exile it again with Angel of Sanctions. But playing Gaunty also seems pretty good here. Actually, Vraska's at the ultimate here, so we have to play enough blockers to block everything they have or we die. I don't think we can. I guess Pelucranos can attack Vraska, which kills one of their creatures, and then it can fight twice, which kills two more. Then I still just have one blocker for two creatures. Alright, well I gotta get something insane off Gonti, I guess. Well, I don't have the mana for that, unfortunately. No, that's just game. We don't have enough blockers. And they have the removal spell of the Angel of Sanctions. Unfortunate. I think if we just drew spider spawning at any point in that game, we could have definitely done my goal and made 10 plus spiders, but we also could have just absolutely overwhelmed them there. Vraska's ultimate would be pretty useless there because we'd have more than like 3 times as many creatures as they would after one cast. And then we could just start like all attacking at some point. Sad. We had the setup for the spider spawning, but did not see the spider spawning. It's my one goal, my one true love. Well, this is pretty bad. No green source here. For the Llanowar Elves, we still have turn 3 Midnight Reaper, turn 4 Gonti. That's like still pretty good. Those are both very high impact cards. Obviously, Gonti is absurd. I kind of still want to keep, but it looks pretty disgusting because of the green card with all black mana here. Does not look very aesthetically pleasing. Now we have a turn 2 play as well. So a pretty good draw. Sword of Body and Mind. If anything hits us with a sword on it, we mill 10, and they get a 2/2. Skyclave Shade can't block anyway, so we send that thing in. I might want them to mill us with Sword of Body and Mind. 10 is a lot of cards, but we'll still have 20 left after they mill us one time. They do get a 2/2 Wolf, which is not fantastic for us. I think that's actually the part that we're the most worried about from the sword. We're kind of okay with the mill if they just go for it here and do the equip. Eventually we will get the double green to Gem Razor that away. Basically, as soon as we draw a forest, we can play Llanowar Elves and then Gem Razor later. I'm just going to let it happen. Fill my grave. Show me the sweet cards, and then I can find them. Pelucranos! Alright. Of course, we do have Gonti to just run out as well, which will be good. So, I either cast Gonti or I cast Llanowar Elves, so I know I get to Gem Razor the sword away next turn. I think I just cast Gonti. This is just an aggro deck over here. We hit a bunch of 1-drops. I like Ovia Pashiri the most, but I don't know if I'll have time to start spitting out 1/1s, so maybe we just take Thraben Inspector, because we can chump block with that and still keep the clue token. And also I don't think Pelt Collector is likely to get too big in this deck, so that's not that exciting. I suppose we already have like Pelucranos going on in the grave. We don't really need card draw. I'll take Ovia. We'll see if we ever have time to use her effect. It's not super likely. Skyclave Shade can't block, but if I attack with it, it dies without doing any damage to anything anyway because they have Double Strike. So if I take this, we just accelerate this game to where we're just immediately in the end game. I've got 10 cards in my library. I have to find a way to kill them with those 10 cards, but I also have an incredibly active spider spawning whenever I do that. I have a really active Pelucranos in that case scenario. Alternatively, I can just block with Gonti. That forces them to discard a card here, and then when Gonti dies, I draw a card off Midnight Reaper. Like, it's pretty safe here, and it's not bad at all. The idea of accelerating into the endgame seems really fun to me, but I think I need more mana before I want to do that. Yeah, we'll just make the block, draw a card. When our Gonti dies, get them to discard a card here. Play it safe. Ooh, Woe Strider's pretty great here, giving us another chump blocker. 0/1 token Scavenging Ooze. I hate that Scavenging Ooze is in this cube. I feel like the graveyard decks aren't very good, and Scavenging Ooze just destroys them. It's like a safety valve for a deck that isn't even that degenerate. That being said, I did play a Scavenging Ooze last time. I drafted Arena Cube and I enjoyed it. So it's fun when you have it. Definitely not fun to be against it. Well, Scavenging Ooze kind of just shuts everything off. We're 1 mana away from Finality, which would be a one-sided board wipe. So we just play the most defensive play we can here. And it's definitely Woe Strider. I think Woe Strider, Llanowar and Ovia here seems pretty good. I guess it's not a one-sided board wipe, it's just a full board wipe. We don't need to play any more creatures here. The more creatures we play, the more we're killing off our own Finality. So, do I just play Llanowar? I guess I do draw a ton of cards off Midnight Reaper as well. Yeah, I think I just played Llanowar. Because I need to make sure that I can cast Finality next turn. Scavenging Ooze is still going to be on the board, though. Actually a big yikes. If they attack with Scavenging Ooze, I'll probably just block it with as much power as I possibly can. If it's possible to get it lethal. No, there's no way. There's no way. They had the mill 10 into the Scavenging Ooze, so this thing just has 10 cards to eat here. They can gain 3 more for sure. It can be a 7/7. I guess if I triple block it, I might be able to kill it. But that's the only way. Since the Skyclave Shade can't block. Now I only have 4 power to block it, and they have 2 to make it bigger, and they're definitely going to exile the Woe Strider, so I won't even be able to escape that later. And this is really just Scavenging Ooze's game. Things weren't going great from the start, but graveyard decks just can't beat a Scavenging Ooze if you don't have removal for it. Our removal is in the deck. Far away. Sending in the double strike protection from green and blue here. Double strike, there's no way we're going to kill it, so we just block with an 0/1. I could let it through if I want to just die by self-mill there. Hey, there's one of the removal spells. We can kill Scavenging Ooze now. We kill it now, and then we still have the mana up to throw a Gem Razor onto something so that we can kill the sword as well. Definitely still a chance here. That shuts off almost everything we were worried about. We still had most of our creatures exiled from our grave, so it does shut off a lot of what our deck was doing. They got rid of Pelucranos, Dread Wanderer, and Woe Strider here. Oh, they didn't get rid of Woe Strider. What did they get rid of? Thragtusk. Interesting. So Gem Razor on the Skyclave Shade so that it can block? Or is that not how it works? That's probably not how it works. Probably can't block either way. Yeah, it can't block either way. Well, I'll get an attack in with it. Because I'm not going to put it on my Llanowar Elves because I'm going to be tapping that thing down every turn, and I also don't really want to put it on Midnight Reaper. Because I don't want to make one, like, super targetable threat. Alright, we're happy with this trade. Trade down into the Wolf, but we also just discard their only card in hand. Looks like it's just a land. So now they literally just have a 3-1 and a 1-1 on board. And we get to draw another card thanks to Midnight Reaper. Right, I think we actually have a pretty good shot now. Just kind of have to find a way to deal with an Adorned Pouncer after it comes back as a 4-4. I guess Finality will do that, -4/-4 to everybody. So we block like this, and we hope that they just spend all their mana to replay the Adorned Pouncer. And then Finality kind of closes this out. Because then we've dealt with all their creatures, they just have the one card in hand. Alright. Do draw Vraska's Contempt here. So I can either Finality and just wipe the whole board, both sides, or I can just Vraska's Contempt the 4/4 double striker. They have one card in hand. I think I'd rather just wipe the whole board and save Vraska's Contempt for a threat later on. Doesn't matter what I put the counters on. Everything's gonna die here. We do draw a card. We draw 2. I forgot Midnight Reaper actually counts itself because that one's sick. Down to 10 cards in the library. Just play a Skyclave Shade instead of a Stitcher Supplier. Play it a little bit safe there. Alright. Now we have basically a full grip against nothing, and Agadeem's Awakening could be big. We have 1, 2, 3 3-mana creatures in our grave, so Agadeem's Awakening to get 3 creatures here. Seems pretty awesome. Oh, a different mana value of X or less. Oh, I'm getting that mixed up with the other Reanimator card. So we actually pay the most we can here. Black, black, black. We have 7 mana, so we could spend 4. We get Gaunty back. That's actually awesome. So we get Gaunty, and then we get Woe Strider. Well, Woe Strider can come back anyway by escaping. So maybe Brontodon. Sure, Brontodon and Llanowar Elves. That is the first time I've ever cast Agadeem's Awakening, but that was pretty cool. Eska's Chariot's pretty massive. I'm going to take that here. Now we are just bashing in like a lunatic. Yeah, there's the concession, because we got the full grip Woe Strider engrave, the Eska's Chariot. Even through the Scavenging Ooze, the amount of just value from our graveyard shenanigans got there in the end. All in on that Finality too, but the Finality didn't even like 2-for-1 them or anything, because they lost 2 cards, we lost 2 cards. It's just all of the like a recasting of the random stuff that helped a lot. Alright, well, I guess we're 1-1 here. Did not expect that game to go this way. When I saw the Scavenging Ooze, I was like, oh dear, it is over. But we did find a way. Some pretty good draws. For sure helped out there. So this game has a solid start. A little bit slow, but we got that Woe Strider turn 3. Pelucranos turn 4. Can curve up to 5. even if we don't have to interact with what they're playing. And if we do have some targeted removal as well to do that. So the mirror match here, playing against another green-black deck. We take 3, go to 17. Nope, no attacks. Never mind. I think we just run out the Pelucranos. Bloodchief's Thirst. Spending the 4 to go ahead and kill the Pelucranos. Might as well scry. I'm gonna die either way. Dread Wanderer. No, we're gonna be casting Thragtusk last turn. I actually don't really want that. There's the 6th mana for Finality now. So putting counters on Thragtusk would be able to make it not a one-sided board wipe. We'd lose our Woe Strider, but we could keep our Thragtusk around and wipe everything else. Rankle is the play now. So we might be going for the Finality here. See what they choose to do with it. Nothing. Okay. Go to our turn. Gaunty. So with Finality, we trade our Finality and our Woe Strider and its token for their Rankle and Thrashing Brontodon. We can also just Vraska's Contempt Rankle, and Thragtusk outraces Rankle by just attacking. No, we don't need to pop a Finality here. Let's just attack with Thragtusk and see what happens here. Trade's definitely fine. We're left with a 3-2 and a 3-3 that can attack in against that Rankle and still outrace it. Don't feel the need to hold up the Vraska's Contempt because we're just going to take 3. Like, unless they haste in some kind of really big scary thing. So I'm just going to cast the Gaunty. Baleful Mastery to exile a creature planeswalker, or Rishkar's Expertise to draw equal to the biggest power. So draw 3 cards right now. And with Vraska's Contempt and Finality, I actually prefer Rishkar's Expertise. So they foretell a card in green and black. I don't know what. Probably Poison the Cup. I have that in my green-black deck. So they can destroy something in Scry 2, I guess. They're going to Murderous Rider to kill the Woe Strider. Interesting. I guess it is the highest power with a good ability. Okay. Everybody discards a card. Well, I'm going to go ahead and Grizzly Salvage first, see what we hit here. Bunch of poop. I don't really like any of these. I guess I'll just grab a Brontodon and then discard the Brontodon. So they've got 2 mana here, so they're basically tapped out if we want to just do Rishkar's Expertise. Draw 3, cast something 5 or less for free. Spider Spawning or Kazandu Mammoth. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures in grave. We get 5 spiders right now. It's not enough. I'm holding it for later. I'm getting the Mammoth. We must embrace maximum greed on the spider spawning. This is the one game I've drawn it. And I'm not going to cast it until I get a million spiders. Each player discards a card. Well, we'll discard our swamp then. They have no cards to discard, they just cast Murderous Rider. Send the team in. Play a land to landfall the mammoth, but yeah, I was going to say it's probably just getting killed by that poison the cup anyway. It's basically the only thing I would expect from them as a foretold card. So this way we get to hold on to the forest and discard that to their rankle. Alright, well at this point I don't really have anything else to do unless I want to cast a finality, so I'm just going to make a million spiders. Now they can't really attack into us. And I can make even more spiders next turn. So I can get my 10 spiders out. But I have to cast the spider spawning twice to do it. Alright, we'll just do it again. Come on. Okay, I was gonna say please don't concede. I just want 10 spiders out. And then we can end the game. My goal's been achieved. Whatever happens now. That is 12 spiders. So they go to 3, and then next turn, and all attacks should be lethal. They can gain 4 life because they gain 2 off the Great Henge and 2 off of Murderous Rider's lifelink. Grook might find a way to save them. Gives them another blocker, or it would buff Murderous Rider to gain more life. Looks like they have done the math, and that is not going to be enough life gain to get out of that one. So 2 and 1 for the spider spawning deck. We did the spider spawning thing now too, so I'm happy with that. Another mono black hand, but again, Midnight Reaper into Gonti is a good start to a game, even if we're stuck on that green mana. Yeah, I'll keep it. Playing against a blue-white, and they start with a Charming Prince. That is a creature that can like flicker something when it comes into play, so they could be one of those flicker synergy decks, one of those things that blue-white can do in this cube. They have cards like the Cloud Blazer that draws 2 cards and gains 2 life when it comes into play. With cards like Charming Prince, they can exile it, play it again, draw more cards. Of course, there's Yorion, kind of the most famous card in that strategy of recent years. 5 mana for a 4/5 flyer, and you bounce any of your permanents and put them back into play at the end step. And they're going to neutralize the Midnight Reaper. So it could also just be straight up blue-white control stuff here. And there is the green source. If I don't run out Gonti, I'm just playing like a Grizzly Salvage here, so I'm not really doing anything if I don't play Gonti, so we'll try to play Gonti, but wouldn't be surprised to see another counterspell, but it looks like no counterspell there, so Gonti will resolve. Swords to Plowshares is pretty good, but I don't expect them to play like a million creatures here, so I kind of want to just grab Boon of the Wishgiver so I can draw a ton of cards later. Yeah, I'm just going to grab Boon. I don't expect them to be the kind of deck that's going to be playing that many creatures, so we'll already just have removal in our own deck to kill all their creatures that we need to. Of course, Massacre Worm is going to be enough to kill their creature on board right now. We can drop a Grizzly Salvage. See what we hit here. Stitcher Supplier, Thrashing Brunnadon, Paradise Druid. Don't love any of these. I guess I grab Stitcher Supplier and fuel that grave some more. See if we get any of our escape cards or our spider spawning, like flashback cards. Just some more creatures. We can cast a Find here instead of a Finality, because I don't think they're likely to have a ton of things to kill with Finality. We already have Massacre Worm again, killing that 2/2 on the board. If we cast a Find right now, we can pick up Gem Razor to blow up Elspeth Conquers Death before they return something from a grave with it, which seems good. Other than that, I guess we can pick up Thrashing Brontodon as well, just to make sure we have our bases covered there. We need another green mana to do either of those, though. We only have the one right now. I guess Elspeth only returns something from their own graveyard, so it's not even going to return something. We don't have to blow it up. Yeah, I guess because of that, we'll just hold on to Find for right now. Next turn, we'll just try to play a Massacre Worm. Don't know if it'll happen, but go for it. I guess they could bring back Charming Prince if we kill it right now, but Massacre Worm still getting a 6/5 on the board seems important to attempt. So we'll help him out here, give him something to bring back with Elspeth Conquers Death. Maybe. Nope, Sublime Epiphany to create a copy of a thing. Bounce our thing. Counter that. Couple 2/2s, so we might actually be killing multiple cards with a Finality. Approach of the Second Sun. The bane of my existence has returned. So we have to kill them in 7 turns minimum. We have nothing on the board right now. I could Finality to kill all their creatures, but I think I really need to draw into my own sort of game plan that'll put pressure back on them more than anything. And I guess I could find to do that. If I find Massacre Worm, I don't have the mana to cast it this turn, but I will next turn. So I could pick up Massacre Worm and something that costs like 5 or less, and I could cast that this turn. Just cast a Gem Razor for now. If they have a counterspell, obviously they can just counter the Massacre Worm next turn, but I think this is probably our best shot, because if it resolves, we get their creatures off the board, make them lose 4 life. We have quite a bit of power on the board to try to outrace the Approach of the Second Sun. So just casting the Palladium Mirror there, that is just 100% confirmation that they have a counterspell, so we know Massacre Worm isn't going to resolve, but it resolving is our only hope here. Basically at all. I guess we attack with Gem Razor pre-combat here. Or pre-casting Massacre Worm, because Massacre Worm is just not going to resolve, so maybe try to kill some creatures that way, and then we can, like, Vraska's Contempt another one, just play Skyclave Shade to get as aggressive as we can. Cast Skyclave Shade and Boon of the Wishgiver to draw a bunch of cards. Again, we are 100% convinced that they have a counterspell, because they would not have played Palladium Mirror because they know I have Massacre Worm in hand. And they're holding really long on the Boon. It is a memory lapse to stop that for a turn, which puts Boon back on top of their library, so unfortunate, but we did pull the counterspell out of their hand, which is something. Problem is, because they have Boon of the Wishgiver in their hand, they get to use that to draw 4 and immediately get to Approach of the Second Sun. Wow, that was actually just like the worst counterspell in the world for us. Boon of the Wishgiver is a sorcery, so if they wanted to do it and get towards Approach, they would have had to do it during their turn. The only reason they would pass here is if they don't have enough mana to Boon and hold up a counterspell, which is kind of really suspicious to me because they have 5, 6, 7 They have 9 mana. So it would have to be a counterspell that costs more than 3? I'm just dropping a Massacre Worm. At this point, if they have the counterspell, I can't get out of it because Boon of the Wishgiver draws 4. We're like literally 1 turn away from dying to Approach the Second Sun. I guess 2 turns. We don't die on their next turn, we die on the one after that. Oh god, Sphinx's Revelation. Hoping to hit a 3 mana counterspell here. But I mean, they're also Boon of the Wishgiver into Approach next turn. We'll get there. Alright, they did not have the counterspell. It is possible, but incredibly unlikely. We can get there. We're down to 13. 6, 10, 13 damage on the board. Make it 14 with the Citrus Supplier out. We're trying. If they have a cheap enough draw spell, though, we do lose. They can cycle Boon here, and then they're 2 cards away from Approach. They need to draw just 1 card. If they have another, like, 1 or 2 mana draw spell, they just draw Approach. Alright. Cleansing Nova it is. Wipe the board. Approach is the next card in their deck. Their only way we can win now is if we have a Gonti. Which I think we already played. We didn't? Unless it's exiled. It is exiled. Okay. So yeah. Can't win now. Approach just comes out next turn, but we can Spider Spawning. We can make 9 spiders. So Approach does get us there. Puts us to 2 and 2, I believe. Hey, 9 spiders off of a single copy of Spider Spawning. That was pretty good. Pretty good for the spawning spiders goal. Actually really excited to see if there are any more spider cards in the D&D set, because I feel like that's the kind of enemy, kind of monster you would see relatively often in like D&D caves. Maybe get a tiny bit more spider tribal. We'll have to see. Alright, so we're back again for round 5. 2 wins and 2 losses. Things could really go either way here. Pretty decent little Golgari mid-range deck here with a lot of graveyard synergies. Both Striders and Plukranos kind of stuff. Lots of escape cards and all that. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent and see what they're playing. Black-white here. Kabira Takedown, Shepherd of the Flock, Giant Killer, Remorseful Cleric. Kind of want to just kill Kaya. Kaya's always just immensely frustrating for me. But I guess the vast majority of the time that I've played against this card has been in call time limited. Playing against any Planeswalker in just a regular draft format always sucks. So I don't actually know if it's that. I mean, it's pretty absurd. She's definitely the most threatening card they have. I guess we can just let them play a bunch of early creatures and try to curve out on us. Hopefully we can draw into our Wrath effect. They do have to crack the Evolving Wilds to get their first white source, which means they don't even get to curve out with the turn 1 Giant Killer, turn 2 3/1. Remorseful Cleric's pretty good against our deck, but we'll just make sure not to self-mill ourselves a ton until we've killed that. Maul of the Skyclaves. Gonna make it a 4/3 flying first strike. Certainly scary, but I can definitely race here. right now. We can just drop a Pelucranos and we can Vraska's Contempt that Remorseful Cleric later. Gem Razor's a pretty good draw. We can just kill the Maul of the Skyclaves right now and turn this goat into a threat so we can attack with both of these. I think that's a bit better than dropping the Pelucranos this turn. Now we attack for 7, put them down to 13. And there's the Giant Killer chopping the Gem Razor. So they go for the Giant Killer this turn rather than dumping out a bunch of 3/1s and stuff. He's got a Spider spawning coming up. We have 1 creature in our grave right now though, so this is the worst Spider spawning we've had so far. Remorseful Cleric on the board as well, can exile the graveyard, so I doubt the Spider spawning is going to do much for us. We could cast it for just 1/1/2 reach here, and they can't attack with Remorseful Cleric anymore if we do that. But I think we just want to play a Pelucranos, and we can use Pelucranos to fight the Flyer later. Now that we've gotten the Giant Killer out of the way, they can't chop down our Pelucranos. Unless they have another removal spell. Oh my god, I forgot about Shepherd of the Flock's ability. So they can bounce it to cast it again here, but we can sacrifice it there and eventually maybe escape it. I don't really like Mammoth right now, but I don't know if it's worth getting rid of it. Probably is. I think I'm spending next turn to Contempt the Flyer. But yeah, since we get to sacrifice Pelucranos in response, we do get to just permanently kill the Giant Killer. And I guess I could have done that with Gem Razor, so I should have done that. Just forgot about that Woe Strider effect. So 2/2. Rather block that thing or attack into it. Probably rather attack into it. I can attack into it, then I can just Vraska's Contempt the Cleric, so I'm still winning the race. Yeah, I hit for 3 each swing, they hit for 2 each swing. I won't be gaining any life off of Vraska's Contempt because they can sacrifice the Remorseful Cleric in response. But if they do that, I can counter that, which is wonderful. Because now takedown just does 1. So probably the Shepherd coming out now, and they attack with Isamaru. Machias, okay. They've drawn into a Machias as well. Got a land here. Let's see what we draw from our Foulmire Knight. Thrashing Barontodon. Well, would have needed more green untapped to cast that, so that's unfortunate. Offer the trade with Machias. And Foulmire Knight is going to trade with whatever they attack me with. So we do hit in for 3, they're down to 4. Shepherd of the Flock's coming out. They have to make some hard decisions on whether or not to attack here. So with Micaius, Shepherd of the Flock can turn into a 4-2 and will turn into a 4-2 next turn. And then if they kill Micaius, then Shepherd of the Flock will turn into a 5-3. Micaius can also make itself bigger, but it's going to be very, very slow. I take like 3 damage if I let Isamaru hit me. I don't think I can crack back in particularly well. I guess at 4 life, Woe Strider plus 1 more damage would be lethal. So that is part of the thing there. Definitely kind of threatening. Yeah, I'm going to take this and see where things go here. We've got a little bit of breathing room in our life total. Not a lot, but enough to take this to maybe do an all-out attack here. Now if I attack with both, they have to block something. If I attack with both of these, they can't just let it all through. They go to 0, so they have to let me kill one of their creatures. And anything they block with is a trade, because 3 power against 3 toughness, or 3 power against 2 toughness, and of course Death Touch. And Blood Artist is such a beautiful draw. Blood Artist makes any of these trades we're making just very favorable when they're down to 4. What a phenomenal draw. We definitely all attack now because they have to block something, and any trade we make is incredible for us. We're probably trading Woe Strider for Shepherd of the Flock. That would be my guess. I guess we could also just hold back the Woe Strider, because Woe Strider and Blood Artist's ability in conjunction can really kill them here. Because if we lose the Woe Strider, we don't get to sacrifice creatures at any time to drain them life. But if we keep it around, we do. So if we keep it around, we can cast Thrashing Brontodon. The next turn, we can just sacrifice enough creatures to kill them here. Yeah, and then they have to make a trade here, because if they don't make the trade, they go to 3. And then I just play 1 more creature and drain them for 3. Oh, actually, they lose if they make a trade, too, because of freaking Blood Artist triggers on every creature. That's absurd. Blood Artist is so good. It's not just your own creatures. Yeah, there's the concession. That Blood Artist off the top was brutal. Card is really good when they're down to like 4 life. There's really like nothing they could do, so that does move us into 3-2 here, so whatever happens, we've made it to a nice average run with the average Golgari mid-range deck. Definitely getting a lot of experience with these cards that I didn't have before, and after that game with Blood Artist, it's official, Blood Artist is absolutely ridiculous. But I guess most of us already knew that to an extent. Getting a little worn out here. Has been a real long stream here, the Arena Cube drafts. The games can go long, and we've been playing some Control, some mid-range here, so it's been about 5 hours of Arena Cube draft here. We are on the play, but the only thing we know we can cast is Woe Strider. I think I'm going to have to mulligan that one. We can play Agadim the Undercrypt. And then we know we have turn 3 Woe Strider. Any land draws us into Vraska. Our late game's very good here. We have both of our colors to a certain extent. I'm going to keep this one. I think I'm going to mulligan like that. Well, we're quite a bit of black mana away from Massacre Worm. We only have 1. We need the 3. Did draw into 1 more here. That is good. So far playing against mono white. Just a couple plains and a Mind Stone. Mind Stone taps for a mana, or they can sacrifice it to draw a card. Yeah, mono white it might be. Would be really interesting to see if this is one of the more controlling mono white decks, and it looks to be if they cast a Palladium Mirror here. Mono white control, definitely something you see much less often than mono white aggro, but it is definitely something you can draft in the cube, especially now that we have some more cheap removal like Swords to Plowshares in the color. think I'm gonna kill Palladium Mirror with Vraska. I don't expect them to play too many other 2 toughness or less creatures to really get a lot out of Massacre Worm. And I am quite worried about them ramping into a really big white controlling spell. You know, they have Mangara and Selfless Savior. Mangara is too big to die to Massacre Worm, although Selfless Savior can do it. So the card I'm really worried about is Overwhelming Splendor. That's like an 8-mana enchantment. You enchant a player, and you just shut off all of their plays. All of their activated abilities get stopped. All their stuff becomes 1/1s, stuff like that. And they could definitely ramp into that with a Palladium Mirror and Mind Stone there. So it looks like they have a Realm Cloak Giant and a Starnheim Unleashed. A little more scared of the Starnheim Unleashed. We'll just have to make sure to play around the Realm Cloak Giant. And just remember they always have a Wrath effect available. And I think I'm going to +2 Vraska without sacrificing something. Although I could sacrifice the goat. I probably should sacrifice the goat, because the thing is, if I +2 Vraska, I don't want to sacrifice a land because I want to be able to cast Massacre Worm. And if I don't sacrifice the goat, I'm just going to have to chump block it anyway if they attack Vraska. So I think we let Vraska die and just sacrifice the goat to draw a card, because she's going to die kind of either way.
Its loss will serve us.
And I guess, I don't know, she doesn't die if we chump block Mangara. And then she goes to 2, but then our goat dies. We'll keep her. I'm actually going to keep her, because after we play Massacre Worm, we don't need the 6th mana anymore, so then we can afford to start sacrificing lands. So she might actually stay around if we have a Massacre Worm to defend her, because the only way they could kill Massacre Worm is if they Wrath and kill their own creatures too, so that they can't attack her. Ranger Vios is the play. Very happy to see that. We kill Ranger and Selfless Savior here if they play one of the 1-drops they grab, the Dauntless Bodyguard. Alright, now this is beautiful. The only card they have left is Mangara after the Massacre Worm. So they simply have a Wrath effect in hand. Oh, hey, no one? Oh yeah, it's like a pun, I think. Sorry, I'm really bad at pronouncing things. How's it going, no one? Thanks very much. I am definitely going to keep up the content. This is my 3rd draft of the day, and I will be uploading these all to the YouTube as always. But yeah, we're having a pretty good game here, because now we get to Massacre Worm, wipe that board, get like the 3-for-1. The only way that they can kill this Massacre Worm is to kill the whole board, which kills Mangara. And if they do that, then our Vraska just has free reign to do whatever she wants. Lithoform Engine. They can copy permanent spells, instants or sorceries, activated abilities and stuff. So now if they cast a Realm Cloak Giant, they could cast 2 of them. Interesting. I kind of want a Thrashing Brontod on that. Let's go ahead and, I guess, just get the mana and then see what we draw into.
As long as we win, nothing else matters.
Another land.
I am proud to fight by your side.
Thank you very much for the subscription, no one. I will definitely be keeping up the Magic Arena content for you. Yeah, thank you very much for stopping by in this subscription. I don't want to cast anything else because Mangara draws them cards. If we do, I think I just attack with the Massacre Lorehold brothers got to stick together. Heck yeah. Lorehold represent, let's go. Alright, I guess if I want to kill Lithoform Engine right now, I have to let Vraska get hit for 2. That's not bad. I'm just going to kill Lithoform Engine right now. I'm a little too scared of what they could top deck and copy. Vraska can take 2. We're not going to be trying to kill them with the -9. We're just going to keep using Vraska to draw cards all over the place. Grizzly Salvage is the draw. I don't actually want to sacrifice a land at this point. I'm just going to put Braska up to 6.
The ends justify the means.
I'm going to go for the Grizzly Salvage and see what we draw into. Oh. Bunch of like 1 mana cards. Well, grab a Foulmire Knight then so I can cast a Profane Insight during their turn. Again, avoiding casting 2 spells in 1 turn here. While I could Paradise Druid and Stitcher Supplier this turn, I can also just cast 1 spell and not allow them to draw any cards. Any card they draw could help them get out of this one. As it stands, we're in a pretty good position because they can't kill Vraska. They can kill Massacre Worm because they have a Wrath effect, but that involves killing their own creature too. And now a History of Benalia coming out. It's another even less inclined to go for a Wrath. Let's draw our card. Another land. And a Thragtusk. So I do like Thragtusk. Even if they Wrath us, Thragtusk leaves behind a 3/3, which is good. Attack with Massacre Worm and see what happens here. We get to hit him for 6, put him down to 6 life. So we could even just Vraska and kill their token to put him down to 4. Actually seems really good to me.
I've suffered worse.
They're down to 4 and they don't have a good attack on Vraska. If they Wrath Effect to destroy all creatures, Massacre Worm just kills them now, because they take 4 from 2 of their creatures dying. I guess that was the one out there. I did not see that line. Very smart line from our opponent. By attacking in and gaining the 2 life, they go to 6 and then take 4. So they go to 2 and survive, but the 3/3 token does kill them. But they did play the best line for sure. They survived until my next turn at least. Opponent with the big brain energy, and that puts us to 4-2. Really nice run here. Definitely better than I was looking at the start of this this draft. See how far we can take it from here. If we get 1 more win, we do get enough wins to get 4,000 gold back out of this, get the full entry fee back, which is super nice. See what happens here. Whoa. This is a really weird name from our opponent. I have no idea how you get a different font of text. Even if it is a foreign name, I'd expect like the same kind of font going on. It's a really cool name though. Alright, we're definitely going to keep this hand. That turn 2 Paradise Druid. Helping with the mana fixing so we can cast anything that costs 2 black or 2 green, of which we of course have both. We have a double black card in Poison the Cup and a double green card in Gem Razor's Mutate ability. So the mana fixing's really good here. We're also curving out pretty decently. Earthshaker Kenra. Of course, Paradise Druid does have hexproof, so if we want to block, we can. But I don't really want to make that trade. We could also just run out a 3/4 here, which should be a nice big blocker against an aggressive deck, so I'm just going to do that. Slam in for 2 with Paradise Druid. Actually starting to erase this red-green deck. Resilient Kenra. Both of the Kenras, the Earthshaker Kenra and the Resilient Kenra, best friends, best brothers for life. The Jackal Warrior and the Jackal Wizard. Very flavorful, both the Eternalized cards together there. I am into that. And they do have the Shock for the Paradise Druid. We do still have 4 mana, but we can't cast Poison the Cup anymore. Kind of like just running out Gem Razor as a 4/4 reach trample here. Just keep the aggression on some nice big creatures. Alright, well they've got a ton of creatures, that's for sure. I was about to say Finality would be a pretty fantastic draw against this this deck, but we are multiple mana away from it. We need 2 more lands. So Grizzly Salvage can help us get there, and if we get a black source off of this, we can also use Foulmire Knight's effect. If we don't hit a black source off of this, I guess we can foretell our Poison the Cup. We do hit a black source, I'd rather have the Swamp than the Blooming Marsh, so I can play it untapped. Do I want to make an attack here? I guess they could double block with both the Kenras, and those Eternalize effects would come back later. It's not great for us. Kind of do still like getting aggressive with the Gem Razor, though. They only have 4 mana right now. They need 2 more to Eternalize. I guess they have the Castle Garenbrig, which adds 6 mana for creature abilities, so if they have 5 mana, they have enough mana to Eternalize the Resilient Kenra, but not the Earthshaker Kenra. I'm just going to go for it. If they get the mana to Eternalize those quick enough, we can even kill those in the Finality Blast, which should be pretty good. Alright, looks like they might be making that double block. Yeah, we're going to kill the Kenras here and see if they want to... Oh no! Alright. That's not what I expected. Give their whole field indestructible hexproof. Well, I guess we kill none of them then. Three, 4 is still a pretty good blocker here if they don't have a burn spell, but we'll see. They've got 1 card in hand. They have enough mana to Eternalize the Resilient Kenra, but not the Earthshaker Kenra, because they have the mana to spend 4 and tap their Castle Garenbrig and get 6 green. Alright, yeah. So because they can Eternalize Resilient Kenra, but not Earthshaker, should I just block Earthshaker here? Because that stops the most damage. And we know they're not going to just poop out a 4/4 on us. I think so. Of course, if they do Eternalize it next turn, that's going to be really bad for us. But we can hold up our Poison the Cup against that. Drawn to a Midnight Reaper. There's the 6th mana for Finality, so I can cast Finality. And then I have a 5/6 blocker, and they can... If they draw a red source, they can Eternalize Earthshaker Kenra, but then it's a 4/4 haste that attacks into a 5/6 and just dies. Yeah, no, I think Finality's pretty good here. So their hand was Siege Gang Commander, so they choose to discard that to draw a different card instead. Alright, I'm going to hold up for blocks in case they haste out that Earthshaker Kenra. I want to stay pretty safe here. Because if we attacked, we would only deal 1 damage because we had -4/-4 for the turn. If it was for the full 5 damage, I probably would have attacked, but it wasn't, so probably not worth it to me. Alright, so they do get the Earthshaker Kenra out here. Now we can play a Death Toucher. That'll block well. Yeah, we can play enough blockers and hold up Poison the Cup. I'm just going to send in an attack here. Hits them for 1/3 of their life. Takes 3 swings to kill them with this Brontodon. So we'll go for it. Now we're going to play... I think I'd like to play... the Death Toucher and hold up the removal spell. I can't play 2 creatures and hold up the removal spell. But here I have Foulmire Knight to block if they don't kill Foulmire Knight, and if they do kill Foulmire Knight, we can just kill the creature when they try to attack with it. And they're dead in 2 swings to the Brontodon. So feeling pretty good about our race here, because we also have more chump blockers to play. Eternalize the Resilient Kenra. Make that a really big attacker. Make it an 8/8 attacker, but it still doesn't get past the 1/1 Death Toucher we just trade there. Primal Might to fight the 1/1 Death Toucher, so we'll just kill all the creatures here. And now they've got no cards in hand. That actually worked out really well for us. Because we left that removal spell up, now we've just cleared the whole board, and we get to scry a couple. Keep that Woe Strider, that gives us multiple blockers, makes us nice and safe. Attack for 5, put them to 5. Get a ton of blockers out here. It's going to take a lot to get them out of this one. And there is the concession. That is 5 wins. That does lead us into enough wins to get 4,000 gold back out of the 4,000 gold draft. So a really nice run for the Golgari self-mill deck with the spider spawning in it and stuff. Basically just Golgari mid-range. Did not combo in as well as I was hoping, but still just good green-black stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, no one. I clicked through too fast, getting ready to head into the next round, but we can look at the deck again after this round, for sure. But it's some pretty basic Golgari stuff with a spider spawning in it and a little bit of self-mill, not a ton. But some escape cards to go with the self-mill as well. Now this is going to be a little bit of a risky keep, but I really want to keep it because turn 4 Gonti is so good in this cube. If we could make it there, if we just draw a couple more lands. Alright, sorry, my internet pooped for a second there. But I should be back. Anyways, what I was trying to say is I'm keeping a risky keep here because of how powerful the cards in this hand are. Gonti in particular, if we can make it to 4 mana. We're definitely willing to take a couple turns off of playing a land here to cast powerful spells like that. So I'm hopeful. Alright, there's the 3rd land, only 1 away now. And it could be any land in the deck now, because we do have the 2nd black mana for Gonti at the ready. Playing against a blue-black deck, and Poison the Cup is the draw. Pretty great draw. I think I want to foretell that. That way when I cast it, I do get to scry. Because by scrying, I get to set up my land draw. Dig for that 2nd green source. I probably don't want to cast it during our upkeep. If we do that, we're going to have 2 lands tapped, so if I do happen to draw the next mana for it, I won't be able to play the Gonti immediately that turn. Oh, well, this is really bad for us. No matter what, they're drawing 2 pretty great cards. Salumgar's Command are 2 cards. Sublime Epiphany is the strongest card that they have here, so I think I'm supposed to put Sublime Epiphany in the 1 pile. Do I show them the Sublime Epiphany in these 2? I feel like they just take Sublime Epiphany if I do that. They're 2 turns away from it. They have 4 mana now. I don't know. I feel like it's pretty equivalent in power level to Salumgar's Command plus Behold the Multiverse. I don't think there's any way we can split these piles where they don't end up with a boatload of value. But if we get mega lucky here, I guess they choose Salumgar's Command. It's not the end of the world if they get Behold and Sublime Epiphany, because I feel like they're just not going to cast Behold for a long time anyway. Alright. They picked the Sublime pile. Gonna go straight to the draw here. We do hit the Gaunty mana. Which is what I like to see, although opponent's got a pretty good position here. We just had a pretty great start all around. We do have a neutralize that we could take from them. They're definitely not going to play around like a counterspell from a green-black deck. Does Gaunty reveal it? No, Gaunty does it face down. Yeah, because Gaunty does it face down, I'm going to take a neutralize here. Surprise them with the counterspell from their own deck. Hello, how's the draft so far? This is my third draft of the day, third and final draft here. It's gone pretty well. We're 5 wins in on this draft, 5-2. So if we lose this one, this is the final boss, and we're out of it, but we'll see how things go. Make the double block there. Looks like we trade for Gaunty, so I get to drain some life with Blood Artist, which is great. The first couple drafts were pretty decent as well. I think we went 2-3 and 4-3. So 2, 3, 4, 3, and now 5-2 are the records so far. Well, Massacre Worm is pretty good against the size of creatures they have, but we also have Poison the Cup, we have Vraska's Contempt. We've got ways to deal with this Thief of Sanity here. If I want to kill it for sure, I have to kill it right now, because if we pass to them, if they draw land, they just have Sublime Epiphany mana up, which isn't great. I do want to scry into more lands, I think. I'm going to just Poison the Cup right now. I don't want this Thief of Sanity to go off. So we'll do it while they're tapped out from Sublime Epiphany mana. They could still have a different counterspell for 2. I guess we'll see. Yeah, they have literal counterspell. Well, not much we can do to kill the Thief of Sanity there then. I guess we just drop Stitcher Supplier now. We could cast Find to pick Gaunty up again, which is fun. But it's just Gaunty instead of 2 things. Let's just get a Stitcher down. I also kind of like holding up Finality to cast it for the -4/-4 to everybody later. Make the trade with the Skyclave Shade at least. Get some more life gain off of Blood Artist. Now they're digging for the best card out of the top 3 cards of our library, so I'd expect something mildly scary. We actually kind of like that they're milling us here, because we have like escape cards and flashback cards and stuff like that. But them drawing cards out of our deck is definitely not ideal. Paradise Druid is the play, so they must still be stuck on 5 mana there, just trying to get to the 6 for Sublime Epiphany, and that looks like the case. We do get to play Llanowar Elf, so we're stuck on 4 here, trying to get to 6 for Massacre Worm. So we just play Llanowar Elves and hold up Neutralize, I think. And that way, if I top deck a basic, I have Finality mana or Massacre Worm mana. And of course, holding up the Neutralize here, you're just not going to expect it. We'll let the Blood Artist happen. The one thing I really want to be able to neutralize is Sublime Epiphany if they ever try to do that. But I guess they just get to hold up 6 and constantly attack with Thief of Sanity, and they just get to counter Massacre Worm or counter Finality and make a copy of Thief of Sanity. I can't hold up Neutralize and cast one of our 6 mana ways to wipe the board. So I'm not so sure how we can get there here, because we know they get to just hold up the counters. I guess the only ways is if they ever get greedy and like tap out. Oh my god, Thoughtseize could get there. Thoughtseize forces their hand if they want a Sublime Epiphany. If they don't Sublime Epiphany, then we just make them discard it. And if they do Sublime Epiphany, we can even just neutralize it. Which I guess we wouldn't really have to, because we have gotten the Sublime Epiphany out of the way anyway. But I think we probably would want to, because we don't want to be playing against 2 Thief of Sanity in the meantime. Yeah, Thief of Sanity is very good. We drafted a blue-black deck with Thief of Sanity last time around. Anything that pulls cards out of your opponent's library is just insane in a cube. I'm going to take that Disdainful Stroke, I think. We just want to make sure that we resolve our Massacre Worm and Finality. Thrix is a problem for sure, a 4/5 Flash Flyer. But we can Vraska's Contempt that, just exile it. And these other cards are just like card draw, so we can survive through those. I think Thief of Sanity and Gaunty are definitely a couple of the best cards in the cube for sure. When all of the cards in each player's decks are so powerful, being able to filter through your opponent's deck and take the best card out of the top 3 every turn is pretty insane. How many creatures do we have in grave for this spider spawning? 1, 2, 3, 4. We only have like 4 creatures in grave somehow. We do have like 17 creatures in the deck. Well, we know what's in their hand, and we know it's not a counterspell. Our deck doesn't have any counterspells either. They're holding 5 mana up here so they could cast Thrix. Alright, looks like they just go for Thragtusk. Yeah, that kind of sucks. That's pretty sad. Didn't even hit the 6 mana for Massacre Worm here, so I guess it doesn't really matter. I guess it does. We could have Finality'd here to kill everything. But Thragtusk makes a 3/3 even when it dies. So now... Oh yeah, it's definitely one of those cards. Very similar to Gaunty. Super fun to have it, but not very fun to play against. It does. It's always sad when you're dying to your own deck. I really don't know what we can do here. I don't think we can do anything big enough. We probably just Vraska's Contempt a Thief of Sanity, but it's a little too late at this point. They've drawn so much off of it. Otherwise, we're playing just one card. We play like a Woe Strider to get a couple chump blockers. Thragtusk does hit us for enough damage that I actually don't know if we can just Vraska's Contempt Thief of Sanity, because then we have to let Thragtusk through or we won't have the mana to cast Finality, and that's our only possible way to maybe stabilize. I have to be able to block this Thragtusk. Because if we just try to exile Thief of Sanity, if they attack with everybody, like Lanarelps has to chump block something. I guess we just do this and go to 4. Thragtusk gives them a 3/3 when it dies. Is this my Skyclave Shade or theirs? I don't know if they cast this off of their Thief of Sanity. If they cast this off of their Thief of Sanity, then I could try to kill that so I can just have it in my own graveyard and I know they can't bring it back later. Because it's not theirs, but I don't know if it is. Oh, alright, I found out how to figure it out. It says at the top right, it says Owner Gauntlet X. This one does not say that, so that must be theirs. Alright, if it's theirs, then we just chump block it. Another good little learning moment there, so we can see how to figure out what all has gotten there from our deck and their deck. Like this Paradise Druid says Owner Gauntlet X as well. Still no 6th mana for their Finality. Yep, that was a rough one. Kept a risky hand, got punished pretty hard for it. We had a 2-drop. We had 2 mana in our hand, really trying to hit that Gaunty on 4. We did get the first couple lands pretty quickly, so we made it to the Gaunty that we were trying to hit. But after the Gaunty, we just did not hit the next lands for quite a while, and it was a little too late there. We had, of course, 2 different Wrath effects we were trying to get to with Massacre Worm and and Finality. So an unfortunate game, but a little bit self-inflicted there. Definitely a risky keep, and you can't get punished on those. So we will be showing off the deck here. I did get a request for that from no one, since they showed up after we drafted this deck, but that is going to be the last draft of the day. Here is the deck. Golgari mid-range pretty much, but there's a lot of graveyard synergies as well. Not too many cards to mill ourselves. We have Grizzly Salvage that puts 5 cards into the graveyard and picks one of them back up. Stitcher Supplier, of course, mills 3 when it comes into play and when it dies. And then the cards that we have that pay off for having a lot of stuff in grave are cards like Pelucranos that can escape. Woe Strider, of course, can escape. Spider Spawning, the big one. I really wanted to draft the Spider Spawning when I saw that Spider Spawning was in the cube. So this is not the greatest Golgari deck ever. It didn't end up that graveyardy, that graveyard synergistically. I don't know if those are words. But we've got like the 2 self-mill cards, and we managed to use a lot of the graveyard cards just as nice value plays. So a lot of our games ended up being like grindy games where near the end of them we got to like loop Pelucranoses from the grave and win that way. So it was a pretty nice deck, nice 5-3 run overall. But I also did hit my goal. I did have one game where I made 12 spiders by casting a Spider Spawning twice, so that was pretty fun. And the goal was to get 10 spiders out. But that is going to end the Magic Arena Cube Draft. It is also going to end the stream for today. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to see more of this content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All that good stuff that lets the YouTube algorithm know that you're enjoying the content and you want to see more. And if you're watching on Twitch, just thank you very much for coming and hanging out. Thank you very much for the subscription, no one. That was very nice, and thanks for stopping by. The stream schedule is every Sunday morning. That's pretty much just the stream schedule, because that is when I used to record every week, and I figured, why not stream those recordings live? So every Sunday morning, starting at, I don't know, it'll say on the stream, there should be somewhere where it says schedule that you can click on, but every Sunday morning at 9 a.m., Central Standard Time, US. I stream 3 drafts every stream for 3 recordings for the YouTube videos. But yeah, thanks everybody for stopping by. Thanks everybody for watching over on YouTube. And I will see you all again very soon for some more Magic Arena.